We just watched Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns wrestle for the 29th time, and it's obvious these two were destined to battle forever. Whenever they step into the ring together, they bring out the very best in each other. They rose together, they split apart together, and they've stayed connected ever since. I wouldn't even call this a normal rivalry. This is a wrestling soulmate. That got me thinking about the other wrestlers the wrestling gods seem to place in each other's lives for a reason. So today, we're counting down the top 10 wrestling soulmates. Starting at number 10, The Undertaker and Kane. The Undertaker and Kane have one of the greatest stories in WWE history. These were two characters who were truly created for each other. It really was a match made in hell. The storytelling behind this rivalry is some of the greatest we've ever seen from WWE, and nothing else comes close. I'd even say Kane's origin story was absolutely brilliant. A fire at their home left him badly burned and disfigured. The Undertaker believed his younger brother never made it out alive, and the dead man even blamed Kane for starting the fire. But later it was revealed that Kane survived those severe burns and returned for revenge. And I say revenge because years later, The Undertaker admitted he was the one who started the fire on purpose in an attempt to get rid of his own brother. Nobody could have predicted that shocking twist, just like nobody expected Kane to rip the door off the first ever Hell in a Cell match and make one of the most terrifying debuts in WWE history. What came next was an unforgettable storyline that stretched across more than 2 decades. The Undertaker and Kane battled each other in countless matches. They competed in Inferno matches, casket matches, and Hell in a Cell bouts. They experienced it all. Their connection became even stronger because they teamed together almost as often as they fought. As the Brothers of Destruction, they grew into one of the most feared tag teams in WWE history. Side by side, they became even more dominant, capturing tag team championships and crushing anyone bold enough to stand in their path. It's impossible to picture one without the other. They always brought out the best in each other. The only reason they sit at number 10 is because their matches against one another don't quite measure up to the other rivalries on this list. And match quality plays a huge role when discussing wrestling soulmates. Even so, the story these two created together is powerful enough to earn them a place here. Number 9, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. Now we move to two wrestling soulmates who shared instant chemistry the moment they stepped inside the ring together. From their very first encounter, everyone knew Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero were destined to produce classics for years to come. Together, they helped define an entire division. Their matches became so incredible that many fans were more excited to watch the cruiserweights than the main event scene. That's how special they truly were. These two simply couldn't have a bad match. When they both arrived in WWE, Paul Heyman immediately realized they needed to remain connected. So they stayed together on SmackDown, becoming a major part of the legendary SmackDown 6. Then we got incredible tag team matches where Rey teamed up with Edge to face Eddie and Chavo almost every single week. It was absolutely must-watch television every Thursday night. Eventually, we reached the main storyline between these two wrestling soulmates, where Eddie betrayed Rey and transformed into a complete psychopath determined to take custody of his son. The story was told so convincingly that even today, some fans still believe Dominic Mysterio is actually Eddie's son. That's how incredible these two were at storytelling. In the end, they reunited as a tag team and captured the championships together. Sadly, Rey lost his wrestling soulmate far too soon. There were undoubtedly many more classics waiting for these two, but Eddie tragically passed away before they could continue that journey, and that never stopped Rey from honoring his brother. Rey Mysterio chased the World Heavyweight Championship and dedicated that entire championship run to Eddie. He captured the title at WrestleMania and pointed toward the sky. Rey and Eddie shared a bond that nobody else in this business could ever recreate, and nobody ever will. Number 8, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. KO and Sami share one of the deepest connections in professional wrestling history. These two literally grew up together. Their first match took place in 2003 when they were still known as Kevin Steen and El Generico, wrestling on the independent scene at only 19 years old. It was simply two young wrestlers chasing their dream in front of about 50 people. Their rivalry officially began in 2006 and continued all the way through 2009. For years, they tore each other apart in front of small crowds. Eventually, They both arrived in WWE around the same time. Sami enjoyed his reign as NXT champion until Kevin Owens arrived and immediately stabbed him in the back. It was the exact same story, only in a completely different company. As you can tell, some things never really change. After finishing their rivalry in NXT, they were both promoted to the main roster. Naturally, their rivalry came with them. These two wrestling soulmates faced each other again in 2016 and delivered some incredible matches. After that, they joined forces for a few years. Once that chapter ended, they stayed apart until 2021. But even during the pandemic era, with empty arenas and no fans in attendance, these two were still at war. They simply couldn't stay away from each other. Their paths crossed again when they both became involved with the Bloodline. That period gave us some outstanding cinematic storytelling. In the end, it brought them back together once again, and they even main event WrestleMania as a team. Just stop and think about that for a moment. In only 20 years, they went from wrestling in front of 50 people inside a tiny building to becoming tag team champions before 80,000 fans on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. Even today, KO is still linked with Sami. In his very first match after returning from injury, he shared the ring with his longtime friend. These two were clearly destined to fight forever. And the wildest part is that it never feels repetitive. Every time they compete against each other or stand on the same side, it still feels meaningful. That's when you know you found true wrestling soulmates. Number 7. Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. Because nobody could explain this pairing better than he did. Here's how Sam Roberts explained why Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage were wrestling soulmates. I believe Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan were true wrestling soulmates. There was always something different about them. It wasn't simply another rivalry. There was an invisible connection between them that you couldn't fully understand until you heard that question better than seeing them together. Whenever they stood across the ring from each other, that was the Mega Powers match. That was the Mega Match. For me, Hogan and Macho will always be one of the greatest wrestling soulmate pairings ever. I completely agree with Sam. Hogan and Savage created magic together for an entire decade. Number 6. D-Generation X. You simply can't make a wrestling soulmates list without including Shawn Michaels and Triple H. These two have stood beside each other for decades. I'm sure their wives have probably wondered at times who the most important person in their husband's life really is. That's how close they've always been. Triple H began his journey by joining forces with HBK to form DX, and together they ran wild for several years, becoming the most entertaining act in wrestling during the early days of the Attitude Era. These guys even worked together behind the scenes during the Montreal Screwjob. From the very beginning, they were impossible to separate. Then, when Shawn Michaels was forced into retirement because of his back injury, he spent 4 years away from the ring. But the moment he returned, he stepped straight into an unforgettable 3-year rivalry with Triple H. Their storytelling was outstanding, and their matches delivered every single time. Hunter always seemed to perform at his absolute best against a smaller, faster opponent, and HBK fit that role perfectly. That's why their chemistry never faded whenever they stepped into the ring together. They battled each other for years and practically carried Raw before eventually reuniting as DX once again. They even tried to end the Undertaker's streak together at WrestleMania. There was hardly a chapter in either man's career where the other wasn't somehow involved. Even after retiring from in-ring competition, their connection never disappeared. Today, they work side by side behind the scenes, helping lead WWE creative, proving that their wrestling soulmate story didn't end when they hung up their boots. If anything, it simply entered another chapter, and they'll likely continue shaping WWE together for many years. Number 5. John Cena and CM Punk. Choosing John Cena's true wrestling soulmate wasn't easy. In a recent interview, he admitted he had several soulmates, including Randy Orton, Edge, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes. Personally, I don't think Rollins and Rhodes really belong in that conversation. While John Cena created plenty of memorable moments with AJ Styles, his history with the other 3 runs much deeper. You could honestly make a case for any of them because Edge's character was the complete opposite of John Cena's, and that contrast made everything between them feel electric. Then there's Randy, who was there with Cena from the very beginning, and the two spent years delivering one great match after another. Both are strong choices, but when it's all said and done, I'm still choosing CM Punk. There's simply something different about this rivalry. The pipe bomb remains one of the most unforgettable moments in wrestling history, and there wasn't a better person for CM Punk to deliver it against than John Cena. I still go back to that legendary contract signing where Punk completely outclassed Cena on the microphone and told him he had become everything he once claimed to hate. That line landed because it felt true. Every promo battle between these two was unforgettable. They operated on a level that nobody else in that era could match. When it came to the matches themselves, I truly believe CM Punk brought the very best out of John Cena. You could argue that AJ Styles had better matches with Cena, and that's a fair point. But the stories behind the Punk matches carried far more weight. Every encounter had real meaning. I'll always wish these two had the chance to main event WrestleMania together because I honestly believe their rivalry deserved that spotlight more than almost any other feud in WWE history. And here's what finally settled it for me. I'm choosing CM Punk as John Cena's wrestling soulmate because, in another interview, Cena was asked to describe each of his greatest opponents using just one word. When he reached CM Punk, his answer was simple: my wrestling soulmate. That says everything. As I mentioned before, CM Punk was the only person who received that description, and that's all the proof I need. Deep down, I believe John Cena knows CM Punk is his true wrestling soulmate. He included the other names out of respect, but the real answer was already there. John Cena and CM Punk are wrestling soulmates. Back then, you were either on John Cena's side or you stood with CM Punk. There was no middle ground. Together, they defined an entire generation of professional wrestling, and I honestly don't believe either career reaches the same level without the other. Number 4, Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair were the perfect example of opposites attracting. Dusty was the son of a plumber. He wasn't built like a superstar. He didn't even look like a world champion. Yet he was the hard-working everyman who fought through every obstacle and made people believe anyone could rise to the top. Ric Flair, on the other hand, represented the complete opposite in every possible way. He had the better physique, the signature blonde hair, and the custom-made suits. He was the limousine-riding, jet-flying, kiss-stealing, wheel-and-dealing son of a gun with a Rolex on his wrist and not a single worry in the world. Dusty stood for the people, while Flair represented everything the people loved to hate. That's exactly why this became the defining rivalry of the 1980s. Nobody did it better. Flair and Dusty stayed locked in an intense feud for 4 straight years, and they kept finding their way back to each other throughout the 1990s because the rivalry never lost its spark. The legendary Hard Times promo, widely considered one of the greatest promos ever delivered, was born directly from this feud. That speech doesn't exist without Ric Flair standing on the opposite side. And that's exactly why these two were true wrestling soulmates. Dusty needed Flair to be the villain standing across the ring from him. And Ric Flair needed Dusty Rhodes to be the hard-working everyman who never stopped chasing his throne. You've heard the saying that opposites attract, and in professional wrestling, opposites create something unforgettable. Number 3, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Without the rivalry between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, I honestly don't think WWE becomes what it is today. I truly believe that, and I'll always stand by it. A superstar with that level of charisma usually comes around once in a lifetime, maybe once in a generation if you're lucky, yet WWE somehow had 2 of them at exactly the same time. Every time they met, it felt legendary. The Rock and Austin began their rivalry battling over the Intercontinental Championship, and even in those early days, you could already see they had something special. Their chemistry clicked immediately. They elevated each other so quickly that their rivalry naturally moved into the WWE Championship picture, exactly where it belonged. Once they reached that level, they never looked back. They went on to headline 2 of the biggest WrestleMania events of all time before returning years later to complete the trilogy and deliver one final chapter. It's impossible for me to imagine wrestling history without these 2 existing at the same time. They were destined to feud forever. Every promo exchange felt like a major event, and every match felt like the biggest attraction in the business. Together, they helped WWE survive the Monday Night War. Without Austin, The Rock never reaches the incredible heights that he eventually achieved. Without The Rock, Austin didn't have the rival he needed to carry the company. They made each other immortal, and that's what a true wrestling soulmate is. Number 2, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I believe you can only have one wrestling soulmate. However, Shawn Michaels is the one exception to that rule, and it's probably because he was simply too good. Bret Hart is his other wrestling soulmate, but unlike the bond with Triple H, there was absolutely no love between these two guys. They didn't exist as soulmates because they liked each other. They existed as soulmates because they gave us one of the most iconic feuds in the history of pro wrestling. And just like many other soulmates on this list, these two were complete opposites. Bret Hart's wrestling style was serious and grounded. His selling was realistic. Everything he did inside that ring was calculated to make it look like an actual fight. Michaels was the opposite. He was more flashy and goofy. His selling was over the top, and he didn't care who had a problem with it. Bret was all about respect and doing things the right way, while Shawn would cross the line over and over again without thinking twice. And so, these two guys went at it for years trying to prove who was the best in the world. That question consumed both of them. Their feud became so intense that they legitimately hated each other in real life. And things only got worse after the Montreal Screwjob tore everything apart. At the time, you couldn't be a fan of both guys. You had to choose a side. There was no middle ground. It was Bret or Shawn. They eventually made peace years later, but deep down, something says there could still be some bad blood left behind. Just look at how much Bret still dislikes Hogan and Goldberg after all these years. It's hard to believe he completely accepted HBK's apology and moved on without anything lingering. Maybe he did, though, and maybe that's exactly what makes them true wrestling soulmates. They pushed each other through some of the toughest moments, created some of the greatest memories this business has ever witnessed, and somehow still found a way to coexist. You couldn't write a better story than that. Number 1, The Shield. The greatest wrestling soulmates of all time have to be The Shield. Now, I know some people have been focusing more on Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins lately, because they have been feuding ever since Ambrose left WWE. But I have to include Moxley in this, because you have to look at The Shield from the very beginning. All three of them. That's the only way to truly do it justice. These three guys weren't even supposed to become a faction together. And when WWE finally decided they were going to create a group, Roman Reigns wasn't even part of the original plan. But by pure luck, Roman was added in. And thank God he was, because these three men became stars the moment they debuted and attacked Ryback. From that very first moment, everyone knew something special was happening. They dominated everyone standing in their way. Nobody could stop them, and The Shield quickly became one of the greatest groups of all time. Then came the split, and that chair shot to Roman Reigns' back changed everything, launching all three men into the main event scene for years to come. We got the incredible rivalry between Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, which carried Raw for a long time. Then came the unforgettable Money in the Bank cash-in at WrestleMania, where Seth Rollins cashed in on Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Later, all three members would become WWE champion on the same night. Then we finally got the three-way rivalry that fans had been waiting years to see. Fast forward, and we got even more battles between Rollins and Ambrose, followed by even more unforgettable moments between Reigns and Rollins that helped carry the company. Nobody could have predicted that these three men, who were brought together by pure luck, would go on to dominate the entire industry for more than a decade. The chemistry was unbelievable, whether they were fighting side by side or destroying each other. Every combination worked, and before it's all over, I hope we get to see these guys face each other one final time in the ring. They deserve that moment. The fans deserve that moment. And I would say The Shield are the greatest wrestling soulmates of all time, and I don't think it's close.